To kind of switch gears, something you mentioned there, talking about the red flags. I haven't really seen any with Heupel. There's kind of the opposite of that happened really this past week and kind of over the off season. Um, we've seen what happened at Auburn with Brian Harsin. I can't believe he kept his job, but we've seen his assistants that he had just jumping ship. And it's even happened with Lane Kiffin a little bit, which has been kind of surprising. I didn't expect that, but it has been something to monitor. It's been the opposite with Heupel. He's kept his whole staff, and there were some pretty big hitters that came after the offensive coordinator, Alex Golesh.
Ole
Uh,
Miss.
yeah, Ole Miss came after him, and reportedly Miami was looking at him, was pursuing him before they landed on Josh Gaddis from Michigan. So it doesn't seem like Gaddis, who they stole from Jim Harbaugh, which that's another bizarre situation that we had touched on before. But Gaddis looked like he was the next head coach possibly at Michigan, and Harbaugh comes back and he leaves for Miami, which is, I mean, come on, where would you rather live, Ann Arbor or South Beach? It's not that difficult,
Tough decision.
and I think Mario Cristobal will do a good job at Miami, but Mario Cristobal has been stealing assistants left and right from programs. He got I can't remember, he got an assistant from Georgia, an on-field coach, to leave for a lateral move. It wasn't a promotion, lateral move to go to Miami. And he's got Gaddis in a lateral move to come to Miami from Michigan. He wasn't able to get Golesh to leave Tennessee. And Golesh isn't super high paid. He makes like $700,000 a year, which is considerably less than Jim Chaney was making as the offensive coordinator last year or in 2020. Now I'm sure he'll get a raise, and I'm sure they've told him he'll get a raise.
He should.
But whatever happened there, it never really got super loud. It never really got serious. It's like they gauged his interest, and he wanted to stay at Tennessee. So when you got other programs pursuing your assistants, big programs with money, Miami is winning the NIL deals right now. I mean, they've stole recruits from LSU, Florida, where they've just offered more money, more deals. I mean, that's kind of how it is right now. We've seen it with Texas A&M. When you're able to keep a guy over that, I mean, that says a lot about who you are as a coach and kind of the culture and what you're building. That those guys, I mean, that's their career on the line. Golesh probably wants to be a head coach, and he will be. I think he will be. He's a smart guy. He sees Tennessee as the better place for his career right now. I think that is worth pointing out that, Heupel, hey, not only are we not seeing red flags, we're seeing good things here.
As far as Golesh goes, like that situation alone, he has to just be thinking, even if Tennessee is not great in the next couple of years, I'm going to look good because the offense is going to be awesome. Like we've seen all the proof of that we need. Tennessee working all year with an inferior set of players to most of the big teams that they played. And you were competitive and right there because the offense was just next level electric. And so he just has to look and he goes, well, I could go down to Miami and I don't know what that guy's running down there or would want me to run. And it might not be as successful as this one. And if that nosedives, I just committed career suicide. And so he just knows if he stays at Tennessee, almost certainly, I would guess, obviously do not know his intentions, it's all speculation on my part, but he can stay here, almost look good no matter what happens, and then probably go get a head coaching job. I would assume is where he kind of wants to head with his career, like you said. So that's that singular situation, but I could not agree more. On the whole, keeping assistants is not just not a red flag, it's a green flag, so to speak.
Yeah.
Butch Jones had a revolving door with assistants. The guy supposedly, and not even supposedly, I mean, we were in the facility. The guy's a nightmare to work with. He's a nightmare as a person. He's a horrible person, and that is personal. It's not just business. He is a terrible person. And it's, it was not surprising to see guys cycle through there so much and to see Heupel, like it wouldn't be a red flag if he lost like two guys. That's not a red flag. But he literally did not lose staff members. It's still a long off season. It could still happen. But I mean,
and not all these guys he worked with before. A lot of them he did.
Yeah.
but a lot of them were kind of recommendations. Like Rodney Garner is a very experienced and very
Yeah.
well respected SEC coach. Um, if he didn't like what he saw, he would have his pick of wherever he wanted to go as a defensive line coach.
Anybody would take him. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a stalwart recruiter,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously, we already said, the biggest thing in college football. And yeah, and he's staying at Tennessee. And I would guess a huge chunk of that is probably just, you know, with that being the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Heupel is the head coach and cares about the defense, but I bet with those guys, he kind of has a "you go do it, I trust you" kind of a thing going on with the defense. And there's got to be a huge, especially with the way some of these head coaches can be so controlling, there
Mm-hmm.
has to be major freedom in that, and it's got to be great as an assistant coach to not just have somebody like Jeremy Pruitt. All the reports that came out where it was just like he wanted to meddle in the offense constantly, and it was awful. And it made Jim Chaney look like he didn't know what he was doing with and he's a guy that we knew is not a terrible offensive
Mm-hmm.
coordinator. Like, he showed it for years and years and years and years and years that he's not bad, and he came here and looked awful because Jeremy Pruitt's an idiot. And I think some of that stuff has to be going on where Heupel is letting his guys coach, which is huge. That was such a knock on Butch and Pruitt, and I'm incredibly encouraged by that. I would say, like I said, not only is it not a red flag to me, it's a green flag. Like, that's a very good thing that he was able to hang on to all these guys.
Yeah, there's really just two things that they've got to improve, and maybe we can save that for another week. The two things they need to improve, because
It's a long offseason.
that's a whole conversation to have. There's two things I feel like specifically that and I think they can. I think they will. So we'll get to that another week. But yeah, they're certainly on the right track for sure. And keeping the assistants is key. That continuity where Hype will trust these guys. He doesn't. I mean, he's the offensive guy. Obviously, it's all his system, but he doesn't have to be in that room to make sure it's installed the way he wants it to be installed. He does. He can be with the defense. He can be with the offensive line because he has such trust in Golish and the rest of the offensive assistants, and that's hard to replace. Like, you lose Golish, yeah, it's still going to be Heupel's system, but suddenly he gets stretched a little thinner because he's having to spend more time with the offense, and that's eventually it's going to happen. Hopefully, it's a situation where he just promotes somebody from the staff. Typically, we don't like to see that because that's what Butch Jones did with was it Larry Scott, and
Oh
that was a
boy.
disaster. Um, but in Heupel's case, I think we do want to see that because it's his offense. We don't want it to change. It works like this, so keep it that way. Keep the continuity as best you can, and Tennessee will be just fine.
Yeah, 100% with you. It's huge and surprising, honestly. I kind of go with Heupel right now. I'm like, man, where's the catch? Who's gonna get arrested
I
in this
know.
offseason? What's gonna
What's the
happen?
catch? Period. I mean, you saw some of these UCF fans that didn't really like him, but I don't know, man. They got so spoiled by that 1 year,
Exactly.
and then he still went undefeated until he ran into Joe Burrow, ironically, in the
Yeah.
Fiesta Bowl. That was the only game they lost that season. And then you lose some guys. It's still a 10-win season. Then you have the pandemic year, which, we've pretty much decided. It's not that we throw it all out because, look, we trashed Jeremy Pruitt for only winning 3 games. We don't give him the COVID excuse, but it's kind of just because of how things went, where he's firing guys in the middle of games. But that 6-4 season really wasn't a true representation of who Heupel is. They weren't getting blown out. They were close losses. They had a lot of opt outs. It was just a tough situation for everybody. But I'm like you, like where is the catch? What is going to pop up that just burns this thing to the ground, and we
Yeah.
have to go through another coaching search like we do every 4 years, 3 years?
When does the other shoe drop?
I mean, that's the way we're conditioned.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Tennessee fan and you don't feel that way at this point, I don't know how. you're just maybe you're just a brand new Tennessee fan
Yeah.
somehow, so you're not totally damaged like all of us are. But